How did you get to New York City?
I actually went to college here. I went to Fordham University. So I knew I wanted to go to college in New York because I knew I wanted to pursue acting, but I didn't want to tell my parents about it. So I thought I could do it kind of under the guise of, if I go to school here, then I can maybe, start auditioning, testing the waters, whatever, while getting a degree. What a drag. And I got a full scholarship to Fordham because I was a National Merit Scholar.
Nice.
Which basically just means I was in the top 1% of PSAT takers nationwide, which is kind of crazy. But it's crazy that something silly like a test I took when I was 16 could have so much power for, and it's also so subjective because every year, the top 1% looks different. You could get the same score one year and be in the top 1% and then get the same score the next year and not be in the top 1%. But anyway, the point is I had a full scholarship to Fordham and it was in the city. So, my parents were happy to send me to a free school. They're like, we don't care where it is, just go.
Where did you grow up?
Upstate New York. So it felt like also less of a big move than LA.
New York was always in your crosshairs? Like, was this always the destination of where you wanted to go?
So I think because I grew up in a really small town, you roll the windows down and you can smell cow poop. Like it's very rural, the biggest landmark there is a super Walmart. The Jets moved their training camp there. Then that was like its biggest claim to fame. So yeah, that's, I think because I grew up in such a small town, I really craved something different. So, I don't know. I think the lore that New York has in our culture of, the concrete jungle, city where dreams are made of, the Alicia Keys and Jay-Z, so, Empire State of Mind, that's what's called, right? Yeah, I think it was always just going to be New York or LA for what I knew I wanted to do. And New York was closer geographically. And also I don't drive, so it's logistically easier.
Were you always artistic?
Yeah, I think, definitely. I really just liked every art class or activity possible in school. I loved drawing. So I did like visual arts. I was in the high school band. I played the flute. I was in, I think, like 3 different choirs. I was in like jazz choir, women's choir, regular choir. I don't know. And then in college, I was in, I don't want to call it church choir, but it was a Jesuit school. So it ended up being like church choir. It was kind of more classical. And I did theater, obviously, in high school. So yeah, I definitely always, I think, was artistic in a sense. Yeah.
Acting was your first love?
I think drawing was my first love. I think I really loved drawing. That's something I kind of lost over the years and would like to go back to at some point. I think just as a kid, I drew, and then, I don't know, I was always just really imaginative and lost in my head imagining things. I was a weird kid. Like, I think I knew I wasn't normal when I was 10. And I was like, I just have this vivid memory of like crying face down on the floor of my parents' bedroom about the passage of time. And I was like, oh my God, a decade of my life is over. I'm so old. Like, what kid is like that?
It's true.
So yeah, I think, I don't know. I think my family watched a lot of movies and TV. That was kind of our happy place. So I think I definitely loved kind of the escape of entertainment and storytelling.
When you came to Fordham, did you have acting in mind as the ultimate objective? What were you thinking when you got here?
Yeah. So it's funny because that was my objective, but I didn't really actually start until after I graduated school. So I actually ended up majoring in philosophy, and I double minored in creative writing and religious studies. I was just determined to be as unemployable as possible. But I did take a lot of screenwriting classes. I took just like TV writing, children's book writing, screenwriting. And the reason I didn't pursue acting until after school is actually because I was a fat kid. I was overweight. So I didn't really have the confidence to pursue it until after I graduated from college.
You were in theater in high school, though, it sounds like.
Yes, I was.
Tell me about that.
It was embarrassing. Like, I don't think my high school theater, well, it's funny. So I say it was embarrassing because the first thing that came to mind was there was a production of, I think it was called Hello, Dolly. And there are Native American characters in it. If it's the one I'm thinking, or no, something Sally. No, not Hello, Dolly. It's something Sally. Anyway, it was like a Western and there were Native Americans in it. And of course they cast me as a Native American. And I wanted to kill myself. I was just like, this is the most embarrassing thing ever. We did a production of Seussical. I think my peak was I was the French maid in an Agatha Christie play. It was Death on the Nile. I think the movie and book version is Murder on the Nile. And then I got nominated for a Repertory Theater Award for Best Featured Actress in a Play. I was the only one nominated for the award regionally, which is crazy. So I automatically won. But that was kind of my peak. I think my parents' house still has like a little glass star award, Best Featured Actress in a Play. And I was in the Shakespeare Society. So I wasn't ever really like the lead in any plays, but I still knew that was what I wanted to do in some capacity. Yeah.
Did you think the arts was going to be a serious contender for your long-term professional focus at that time?
Yeah, I always knew it was. I think I was trying to convince myself out of it. In college, a lot of the time, I felt like I was kind of trying to like gaslight myself into being more practical or, like I tried a lot of different majors. I dated around. I did like, I think I tried pre-med. Horrible idea. I'm not good at science. I'm not a science person. I think that was my lowest grade was organic chemistry. I tried environmental science. I tried international relations. I think for me, I knew, okay, my thing was I knew I wanted to be of like, I know it sounds cheesy, but like service or help the world in some way. And I didn't know quite how I wanted to do it, what, my particular skill set was, what my method of helping the world would be. So I thought maybe it would be, science, maybe it would be politics. I realized neither of those skill sets really match mine or my personality. And what I kept going back to was storytelling and kind of changing minds that way, or just that was how I connect to the world. That's how I saw people connect to each other, is through storytelling. So I guess I figured my way of helping the world is going to be through, I think, stories have a really unique power to cultivate empathy because, you're relating to characters who maybe seem different from you, but are actually similar in a lot of ways. Or, we identify with characters in stories.
What was the drought of philosophy?
I think so once I realized that I wasn't going to major in anything practical, like a science or math or anything like a hard skill, all the humanities I feel like are kind of the same. It's like if liberal arts, like if you're majoring in English, history, philosophy, it's all kind of the same thing. If you're talking in terms of the job market or whatever. And I just liked I think I looked at the course catalog and I was like, what am I going to want to take 10 classes in? And I really just enjoyed thinking about things, as you know, my 10-year-old self
Yeah.
taught me. I think I like getting to the root of ideas. And that's what philosophy is. You know, I was taking classes like theories of knowledge and creativity, philosophy of art, philosophy of love. I took Harry Potter in philosophy. Like I just really enjoyed, I feel like philosophy is at the root of so many things. And I really just enjoyed the process of my coursework. Like it felt like I think something that bothered me about academia was like, I don't really give a shit about, can I curse on this? Okay. I realized I didn't ask that. I don't really care. Yeah. About really obscure things like the role of individualism in the 18th century. Like some of, you know, the literature and history classes were just boring me to tears. And I felt like with philosophy, I was, you know, ethics, like I was thinking about things that actually matter. And it came naturally to me, you know, just thinking about. So I feel like I didn't really read a lot of philosophy, but I had a 4.0 in the major just because I wrote good papers and listened and participated in class.
Has anything from those classes, you talked about getting to the root cause of things in philosophy. Has anything from that time period in those studies stayed with you that you still consider or that affected you in some major way?
Yeah, definitely. I think one thing that I really go back to is just logic and critical thinking skills. So it's funny, I whip that out at like parties or whatever. Like someone was kind of trying to argue with me about vegetarianism and veganism. And he was like, where's your critical thinking skills? I was like, don't talk to me about critical thinking skills. I was a philosophy major. I'm smarter than you. Okay. Well, I'm definitely smarter than that guy. But I think that's one thing. And then also, I think just kind of the meaning of life and the different ways that we ascribe meaning to things. So I took a class called Philosophy of Art. That was really impactful. So we talked about Nietzsche. See, I'm like, I majored in philosophy and I don't know how to say his name. But basically Nietzsche talks, I think it's called The Birth of Tragedy. And he talks about the ancient Greeks and how they wrote comedies, how they wrote tragedies. And what's, you know, beautiful about the tragedies is that they celebrate not just, you know, the joys of life, but also the sorrows of life and the tragedies. And like all of life is worth, you know, celebrating, or maybe not even celebrating, just has meaning. Like everything has meaning. On the flip side, I think everyone always asks me what my school of philosophy is. I think I would say existentialism, which is kind of, I think I've had a tendency towards depression and nihilism in a lot of my life. And like, you know, does anything matter, etc.? Does anything mean anything? And I go back to kind of the idea, I think it was Kierkegaard who said this, like, maybe nothing means anything, but it's just the value that you put on it, what it means to you.
What was the debate with the vegetarian vegan conversation? I'd be curious where you come down on that.
Okay, so I have a joke about this. I'll slip it in. I always say like I'm vegetarian the way that some people are bisexual. Like I try not to eat meat, but I will if I'm drunk enough. It's a loose analogy. But okay, so I've always loved animals. Like I love animals more than people. I know people like to say that, but I'm crazy. Like I will follow animals down the street. I'll take creeper pictures of them. I will go up to them and pet them like other people's dogs. Like I will start crying if I see a really cute animal. Like I'm crazy about animals. Like I will not talk to people at a party and just like hang out with the dog or the cat. Like it's kind of my thing. And that's just who I am. It's not like a persona or anything. That's literally just who I am. I've always really loved animals. And then as a kid, I asked my parents, you know, do they kill animals for meat? And my mom lied because I was a really sensitive kid. I was a really sensitive kid. Like she actually, I found out later, she would like write letters to the principal every year to ask, like she would ask my dad to ask all the nurses at the hospital who the nicest teachers were in every grade. And then she would write to the principal and ask them to assign me that teacher so that they wouldn't yell at me or make me cry. Like she went to great lengths to protect me, which is kind of crazy. Well, yeah, but then, just so she could yell at me at home.
Oh, okay.
I'm kidding. She'll hate this. No, yeah, definitely. She went to great lengths to protect me because I was very sensitive, but also it's which was very kind of her, but also it's ironic because I'm like, I was a really well-behaved kid. Like I was like a square. I was a straight A student. I wasn't going to get yelled at. I wasn't a troublemaker in school. Not like I am now. But yeah, going back to the vegetarianism stuff. Anyway, my mom lied to me. She said, no, the animals are already dead. So I always just felt conflicted. I never felt good about eating meat. I just never felt good about it. And then when I was in college, I did an internship with an environmental NGO called Brighter Green. And the woman who runs it, her name's Mia McDonald. She was writing all these case studies about the effects of industrial animal agriculture on the environment in different developing nations. And I think just what I learned in those studies about how bad the meat industry is for, the single biggest emission of carbon, greater than the entire transportation industry combined, deforestation, pushing indigenous people off their land, not to mention animal cruelty, just like everything, pollution, so many things, just like, again, logically, I found out that a lot of people don't know, still don't know, that I didn't know. And that really horrified me. So I think I got to a point where I was like, you know what? I never really was a big meat eater anyway, or felt, that I needed to. So let me just kind of cut back consciously. And the more I cut back on it, the more I found I didn't really need it. I think, especially in America, we really, over prioritize it, feels like, with steak and burgers and whatnot. And I don't think, I don't think it's necessary. Like, I feel like I only like meat if it's seasoned to taste like it's not meat. So I think it was just a combination of those things that led me to kind of consciously cut back on it. And then, so I'm predominantly vegetarian. I have my moments where I slip up, or if, it makes more sense to not be like wasteful, or if I'm traveling or whatever, like I have moments where I, I'm not perfect, but I definitely try to be predominantly plant-based. Like I don't like cooking meat. I don't like touching it. I wouldn't kill an animal myself. So, that's just my point of view. But that being said, I think that's why I ascribe kind of a more moderate approach. I think a lot of vegans get hate because, maybe I think the approach, people are so defensive about like their choices and what they eat and what people it feels like they're being judged for eating. And I think my approach is like, even if you just consciously cut back a little bit, that helps. Like it doesn't have to be all or nothing.
How about fish? How do you think about that? Eating fish? Or seafood in general?
I've never really been a big seafood person, which is ironic because I'm from a part of India that I'm Bengali, and Bengalis are known for, it's like a port city. So, or Calcutta is a port city. So they're known for really, like, fish is a big part of the diet and the culture there. I've never been a huge seafood person. I can't stand like mussels and oysters. I just don't get it.
Yep.
But I think I'm maybe that's I think if I slip up, it's more often that than anything else. Just because sometimes like the meat options are just, or the vegetarian, I think vegetarian and vegan food is getting better, but it's still not, sometimes like it's just seasoned so badly, or they just don't give a shit. They're just like, you can eat salad, you can eat this like tasteless thing, or it's if it's a choice between being like malnourished or something. So yeah, I'll eat it. But again, I'm not like, I think because you asked me, I'm talking about it, but I think I try not to be like super preachy or anything. And some people don't want to even have that conversation. So thank you for asking.
Of course.
But I also try not to, like judge or anything. I'm not perfect, but I think I'm an inspiring vegan. Like I think in an ideal world, I would be vegan. I don't really get the hate that vegans get. Like when people are like, oh, well, they think they're so better than us. I'm kind of like, well, yeah, they are. Like I wish I had that discipline, and I hope to someday. I ordered the book Eating Animals by, Jonathan Safran Foer, who's I think also was a philosophy major. And I think for him, he wrote that book when he was thinking about, do I want to raise my kids vegetarian or not? So yeah, I just feel better when I'm not eating meat. Like every time I eat meat, I feel bad. Like I feel guilty. Like I don't feel good about it.
I understand.
Yeah. Are you vegetarian? Can I ask you questions?
We'll talk about that off. I used to be, but that's a whole other subject.
Okay. Sorry.
I want to get back to your career.
Yeah.
Which I don't know the answer to this question, which is how did you get into comedy in the first place? How did that trajectory happen?
That is a great question. So it's funny because growing up, I never really considered myself having an interest in comedy. I think I told you I have had a tendency towards like depression and dark thoughts. So I actually was always drawn towards sci-fi and kind of like different types of material in terms of stories and entertainment. But once I started acting, I just kept getting signs to pursue comedy. Like I remember I did it's going to sound silly, but I did a bra commercial and I remember there was a script, but they also had an interview portion where, they just kind of asked us questions off the cuff. And I think I was the only one of the several women who were in that spot who they ended up using one of my improvised lines instead of the script. I said they asked me, what's the ideal bra like? And I said, the ideal bra is like the ideal partner, supportive, but not suffocating. Yeah. And they loved that. Thank you. Yeah. I thought about on the spot. But yeah, they ended up having me even ADR the line because they were like, oh, we love that so much. Or I think initially I said the ideal boyfriend, but then they wanted to make it more gender neutral. So they had me re-record it to say partner. But so even on that set, everyone kept saying like, do you do stand-up? Have you ever done stand-up? You're so funny. And then my acting teacher, his name is Anthony Abeson. He's like the Dumbledore of acting. Like he's just like a very old, wise white man. Like he studied with the greats, like, Stella Adler. And he's like, I think almost 80 years old. He's just from that generation of like classically trained actors and acting teachers. And he also, so my first day of class, I had to do a monologue. He has everyone do a monologue to introduce yourself to the class. And I did this dramatic monologue where I was like crying and then he tells me, he's like, you're very funny, dear. And then I remember I was reading the foreword to his book, which was written by Jennifer Aniston because she was a former student of his. And I got chills because she tells like word for word the same story that I had. She's like, yeah, I was doing this dramatic monologue from this seagull and I started crying. And he goes, you're very funny, dear. And I was like, wait, am I Jennifer Aniston? I mean, I'm not yet. But I think he always told me like, you have really good comedic timing. And I kept getting that feedback also just from, agents, casting directors. Like I just kept getting those signs. And I actually kind of kept resisting it. I almost saw it as like a lesser form of the arts. Yeah. Like I was like, no, I'm a dramatic actor. What is everyone talking about? I was never really drawn towards like comedies or sitcoms or anything as much as I was to, I guess what I saw as like the deeper arts. I had maybe a bit of stigma in myself, but then, two things happened. I was in a short film where I worked with a director and fellow actor who, during ADR sessions, he said, he was like, oh, you're really funny. I've always wanted to do comedy sketches with a partner. Like, do you want to be creative partners and work on this stuff? So we started doing writing and making comedy sketches together. And then, during the pandemic, I tried a few open mics. And during the actors strike, when there were really no auditions, not much acting going on, I think I also got to a point where I was really frustrated with acting. I felt like acting did not love me back. Like I felt like I was just kind of spinning my wheels. I wasn't being seen the way that I wanted to be seen. I felt like I kept getting pigeonholed in a box of like Indian, doctor, this, that, like arranged marriage, accent, like or Middle Eastern, wear a hijab, like I just was so frustrated with not booking roles. But then I also, if I thought about it, I wasn't really excited about any of the roles that I auditioned for. I didn't really feel like I missed out where I was like, oh my God, I really wanted that. Like it was so rare. Most of the stuff I was auditioning for, I didn't connect to, I didn't really care about. And I didn't feel like the industry really saw me the way that I see myself, if that makes sense, or other people see me. Like I felt like I was just kind of a lifeless, non-charismatic shell of myself when I was auditioning. Like I felt like not myself, and maybe that's kind of how the industry sees non-white people, or I think things are changing, but I felt like there was just more. And so during the actors strike, I had a really bad experience in an acting class, and I had some bad experiences with, like, I think, an agent dropped me or something. And I was like, you know what? Fuck this. Fuck all this. I'm just going to do it. I've always thought about doing stand-up. I'm just going to take a class. And I started to really love the process of being able to write my own material. It just felt like it came naturally to me. I could say what I wanted to say. I could be honest. I could be myself. I could talk about things that piss me off. Like I could go on my, feminist rants or whatever, but I could get away with it because it's funny. Like I think going back to Anthony Abeson, he said something that really stuck with me. I don't know if this is an exact quote, but I talk about it all the time. He quotes I think the playwright Bertolt Brecht. He says that the purpose of comedy is to force the audience's mouths open with laughter, and while their mouths are open, shove a spoonful of truth down their throats. So really just disarm the audience with humor. When you're laughing at something, it maybe forces you, or maybe not I don't want to use the word force, but like prompts you to think about things in a different way. So, and it kind of also lightens the load a little bit of, instead of like preaching about something, you're just kind of encouraging people to think about it in a different way or see a different viewpoint. So yeah, that was kind of my journey to comedy. It just felt more empowering. I felt like with acting, I was always trying to fit into other people's boxes and other people's ideas, and I didn't. And then I was like, you know what? I don't want to do like I don't want to feel like this is just, I don't want to just be waiting around all the time for other people to validate me. I want to, validate myself, tell my story, and put myself out there in the way that I want to be seen. And you know what? I've gotten more acting and other opportunities since starting comedy, I think. So, yeah.
How did you launch your comedy career? What's the first event you actually did?
Yeah. Well, I took a class at Manhattan Comedy School, and there was a graduation show at Gotham Comedy Club. Okay. And I think also, I find that comedians, generally speaking, are a lot more supportive than actors. I think there's a lot more camaraderie, and support. So I got really close with classmates from that class. Jess Silver was one of them, who you had on this podcast. And we kind of started doing open mics together. And I remember I had one tough day in comedy class where the teacher was like really hard on me, and I considered quitting. I was like, I don't want to do this anymore. And all my classmates were like, no, you're really good. You got it. Just do it. Just do the class show. Just do the show. Keep going. And that show, I had like a bunch of friends come, and I just like felt like everything clicked for me in a way that it hadn't before. Like I felt like with acting, with writing, something was always missing, because as a writer, I wanted to perform, but as a performer, I felt maybe a little disempowered, and stand-up was a way that I could marry the two and have the best of both worlds. So I could be alive on stage with my own material. And it was just like a magical show. I think almost to this day, ironically, like that was the best show I've ever done, was my first show. And then I did a second show. I did a second class. And I think with classes, you meet other people, you go to open mics, you're networking, people see you at open mics or people in the class, they like you, they offer you other spots. So then I did a show that was like an audition showcase for a manager. Someone came to that show. She offered me another spot. I found that comedy is very self-regenerating in a way that acting didn't feel. Like I felt like with acting, I was always chasing something. Whereas with comedy, I feel like almost every time I do a show or an open mic, an opportunity comes to me. Like I did an open mic and this guy at the mic was like, hey, do you want to play Kim Kardashian in our show? So, if I hadn't gone to that open mic, I wouldn't have gotten that job. So yeah, it's just been very easy in a way, it feels like, or just submitting to comedy festivals, and the more comics, the more shows you get put on. And yeah.
How are you thinking about how you want to grow this, or maybe not? How are you thinking about your future related to how many times a week ideally you would like to be on stage? I don't know what that's looking like right now. I'd love to hear about that. Yeah,
it varies. I'll go sometimes like weeks at a time. I think I just came off of like a month of not really doing comedy. I just did my first show in like a month. And then sometimes I've done like 3 shows in one day. So it really depends. I think I am at an interesting kind of crossroads, I will say, with comedy, where I think the first year I was in like the honeymoon phase. I was like, oh my God, I'm so high off this. This is so great. I love this. And then I think I kind of hit maybe a bit of a sophomore slump where I started to get a little disillusioned. I had maybe some shows where it didn't feel as great, maybe the audience wasn't really connecting or whatever. I mean, that's the crazy thing about comedy is you can do the same jokes in 2 different rooms and crush in one and bomb in another. So you kind of just have to believe in yourself. So for me, in terms of growing this, I think it's hard because this sounds so like pretentious to say, but I'm a multi-hyphenate. But I really am. Like I just have ADD. Like I just want to do everything. I think again, that's just, I think if you're a creative person, you just want to do a lot of different things. It's hard to put yourself in a box. So like I want to keep doing comedy. I want to keep acting. I want to keep writing. So I think for me, it's about kind of finding ways to bring all of those things together. So I actually did a solo show earlier this year at the Pit, the People's Improv Theater, their Solo Com Festival. So that was one of the crazier things I did. I just applied. I didn't have my solo show written. I just like came up with a description. I love kind of hacking myself to be productive. I'll just like give myself a deadline and I'm like, oh shit, now I have to do this. Because there's pressure and I don't want to make a fool of myself. So I applied for like an 18-minute slot. I got it. Wow. And then I did it, and it was great because it was great timing because I had just gotten really depressed about a festival that I was in prior, because festivals, as we were talking about, I think whenever you have kind of external pressure or external sources of validation on something that is so intrinsic and personal and vulnerable and subjective, like creativity, it's really easy to feel, imposter syndrome or not good enough or, invalidated. So what got me out of it was having this solo show having the next thing to focus on. So that went really well. It was, I think storytelling, maybe even more than stand-up, is where I really feel at home. Because it's not just, sometimes stand-up can feel a little bit restrictive. It's like joke, 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 laugh line, laugh line. Like sometimes it feels like you're just kind of sprinting to the next benchmark, or it feels like that has to follow a specific format, laughs per minute, etc. Whereas I think with storytelling, there's more room to have nuance, have intricacy, have, highs and lows, peaks and valleys. Like, I think what I learned from my solo show was I did the first 10 minutes was like my regular stand up. And then the last 8 minutes was like trauma dumping, really vulnerable stuff that I don't share with a lot of people. But I felt like I didn't do as well in this stuff the first 10 minutes. And I felt like the last 8 minutes, because it was so raw and vulnerable, that's where I really got people on board. And that's where I got the biggest laughs, ironically. Again, back to the point of, talking about the real shit, which is what I like about stand up. So I want to expand my solo show. And I want to, I'm also kind of pivoting back towards script writing. So I think I mentioned I just wrote a short film. I just made a short film that I'd written a script for. It's a comedy about abortion. So that's kind of my MO. Prior to that, I'd made a comedy about suicide. I think the dark comedy is just like where I am at home. So I'm in post-production for the film. I want a grant for it, which is how I was able to make it from the Asian Women's Giving Circle. So I'm going to hopefully finish that up soon and put it in the festival circuit. And I'm trying to expand that to a feature film, which is kind of in line with my solo show. So I'm trying to kind of, I guess, build my brand, so to speak. So I think I want to be, that's what's tough. Like, I don't want to just be performing on stage. I think ultimately I like being on screen. I like film and TV. So that was what brought me to stand up, was to further my acting career. But stand up has been so good for my writing career. Like, I feel like it's really just helped me be economical with words and storytelling in a way that hadn't been unlocked for me when I was just acting.
So maybe comedy is just adding to this repertoire of skills in a creative life versus going to be the primary focus of what you'll do artistically. Yes.
100%. You said that better than I could. I think it's like a means to an end. I don't know that my ultimate end is to be a touring comic necessarily. I won't say no if someone like offers me a Netflix special. Like, I would love to, I want to be a comedian. Like, I do love it, but I want to be kind of, I don't know, like those comedians who end up having their own sitcom or their own show. I think that's where I want to be. Like, I think something clicked for me because, have you seen the other two?
No.
On HBO? Oh, it's one of my favorite shows. I talk about it all the time. It's about it's about a family. It's like a brother and sister in their, late 20s, and they're one of them's a former dancer, one of them's like a struggling actor. He's auditioning for a commercial to play like man who smells fart, like the classic like New York struggling artist stuff. And then their 13-year-old brother is like a Justin Bieber type, and he gains like overnight viral success for like a stupid song, and he becomes really successful, and they're kind of like living in his shadow. But it's such a good satire of the entertainment industry. Like, I'm obsessed. It's 3 seasons. It's like a really easy watch. That, and then also I know people love to hate on women-centric shows, but like Girls and Sex and the City, I know, yes, they're, not super diverse or anything. They're very predominantly white women shows, but they're still shows about women that I think even my non-white friends and I, it's almost just like a common language for us. It's like me and my therapist refer to those shows all the time. Like, I'll say something and she'll be like, oh yeah, like Charlotte in that one episode. So I think I want to create some sort of, I've been toying with like a few different like micro series and show ideas. I think I want to create some sort of like shared language. Like, I really want to give voice to women's lives and issues and struggles in a comedic way. And I think I do that through my comedy and through the scripts that I write.
Given that stand-up comedy may be just adding to your skill set, what are the skills it has helped you with? You said the being more economical with language being one of them, but what else?
Kind of being quick-witted, looking for the joke, really kind of structure. Like I put a lot of jokes in my stand-up. I think what's hard, again, about being creative is like, I have so many ideas and I'm like, what's the best medium for this? Is this a sketch? Is this a short film? Is this a feature film? Is this, I wrote a short play last year too. So it was called Bitch Training. It's about like two women who enter they take a class on how to be bitches. So I'm like, should I adapt that into a film? So I think stand-up has unlocked for me also kind of it's taken away my filter a little bit. I would say like I felt creatively blocked in the past a lot because I felt this pressure for things to be a certain way. And I think with stand up, I've really just learned to kind of be in the moment, appreciate the process. A lot of stand up is, a lot of stand ups, and I've had comedy coaches who've told me this, to record all my sets because nothing ever comes out the same way. Like sometimes just you can find little wordings or little ideas like in an improvised moment, and then that becomes part of your set. So nothing's ever really finished in stand-up. It's always like a living organism. It's always changing shape. It's always evolving. And I think that's something that has helped me also in the writing process where I've felt pressure of like, I wish I could just like vomit out a script and it's done, Whereas now I have to be like, okay, it's okay to refine. Sometimes you just vomit out a first draft and then you refine it and you rewrite it and you revise it. So I think stand-up has helped me also in just the creative process, not having a filter, being economical with words, landing the joke. Like I think I can't write anything that's not funny. I just don't know how to anymore, or I don't know if I ever did. Like, I think it's just kind of, like I wrote a micro horror script and everyone was like, that was so funny. I think it's just a way to make anything accessible is to have humor in it.
I like to close with this question. We talked about this a little bit before we were recording, but I would love to ask you how you think about success for your life, given that it sounds like you have a lot of creative interests and you're pursuing a lot of different lanes. Nobody knows the future, but when you think about your future, what is success? What does that word mean to you in your life and your work?
Yeah, that's a great question. So I think part of the inherent problem with success is that it tends to be comparative. It kind of, is relative to other people. It pits you against other people. And we talked about this where it's like, there's always someone more successful, so to speak. There's always, someone who makes more money or has more status or more projects or whatever. And I think I've been trying to shift towards my definition of success is like, again, maybe sounds cheesy, but like really challenging myself, like because I have so many ideas and so many things I want to do, I've been kind of trying to shift my perspective to not doing this for the sake of some extrinsic status or motivation or validation, but just doing it for myself and to just honor myself, to show myself that I can. And I think it's like the whole competing with yourself thing. Like, I don't want to, look back on my life. I think whenever I look back on my life, I always regret the things I didn't do more than the things I did. Maybe I should regret more things that I did, but generally I don't. Because I think everything's a learning experience. And I think I try to look at the creative process that way too, where I think I'm only a failure if I'm not fulfilling my potential. Like, I think wasted potential is such a shame. And like, even for me, I feel like everything I accomplish, I learn more about what I'm capable of and what I can do, and I can keep building on that. And that's what's exciting. So in an ideal world, I mean, success would look like, having a private jet and millions of dollars and a lot of, fancy houses and whatnot. Like, it would look like the external stuff. But I think I'm trying to, to a degree, so many of those external factors are out of our control. So I think definitely for me, I'm trying to shift towards success looks like just being the best and most fully realized artist that I can be.
And to add one more final question on that, the name of your forthcoming short film and how can people see it?
It's called Just Potential. So I'll be entering it in festivals in the next year, this upcoming year's cycle. So hopefully it gets into a really good one. Otherwise I'll kill myself. For all my talk of success, I really need some sort of value. I mean, it's a struggle. But yeah, well, I think to add to that, so it's called Just Potential. I think just a little caveat to that. I think what I've learned is also not to put too much pressure on one specific project. I think that's kind of the beauty of being an artist is like if you have a scarcity mindset, there's more pressure. Whereas if you keep thinking like there'll be more shows, there'll be more projects. If I don't get everything in this one, it's okay. It's part of the process. I'll get it in the next one. So that's also, I think for me, the definition of success is I also want to be very prolific. I don't know if I mentioned this. I think I told you earlier, I sing and play flute.
You did mention
So I dabble with music too. Not as much as I would like to in an ideal world where I was, a sugar baby or had a rich husband or a Nepo baby. If I had financial support, if I won the lottery, I would just be learning and doing things all the time. Like I would be in a million classes. I think that's what I really love doing. I don't know if I answered the question.
You did. This is great. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.